So we've now come to the middle of the scale, the um, the middle of the spectrum of tone when it comes to style as a genre. And my throat is dry, so I'm drinking a little here and there. I've always had some problems giving this kind of style a name, and that showed in the original video art and styles and tones in general. Where I think, what did I call it? I think I ended up calling it moderate. But to be perfectly honest, I'd rather call it casual. It's very easy to slip into the mindset that this is a lack of any significant kind of style, or that it's just a bland style, deliberately or otherwise. Um, it doesn't have to be bland, but it is very much toned down. And that is actually quite often um, by design. Because the idea is that if everything is toned down and simplified, things that are not toned down, things that are extreme, will stand out. And when this kind of style is used well, that shows. The world is usually kind of, if not actually bland, it's simple and harmless and often viewed in a kind of not aloof but kind of the way you look at a pet. Lovingly, sure, but expecting um, something simple, something calm, something harmless. And then when something stands out in it, it stands out all the more for it. Good things stand out, bad things stand out, horrible things stand out, lucky things stand out, and so on and so forth. And usually, the things that stand out are either meant to depict something about the world, or they are supposed to play a significant role in the story. The one example case I would like to use for this might come as a surprise, but it is the original Die Hard movie, where John McClane gets caught up in a high rise office party when terrorists take the entire party hostage because of some heist they're doing. I don't know why I'm being careful not to spoil this. The movie is what, 30 years old by now, maybe even more. I think it's from the 80s. Oh God, that puts it almost at 40. Oh God, existential dread. Um, no, but the world in Die Hard, in this case, the world being Los Angeles around Christmas time, is depicted as fairly innocuous. It's depicted as a bit of an oddity because of the unusual climate for a Christmas movie, but also for some of the laid back culture and stuff like that. Um, for those who do not know if those people actually still exist, John McClane, the main character, is a cop from New York visiting um, LA because his wife has moved there to work, and they're kind of trying to patch things up. make it work between them also. But he got invited to her company's Christmas party. So he's a fish out of water, and the entire place seems a little bit weird to him, um, but harmless and actually a bit like a pet. It's behaving weird, but in a sort of adorable way. By the way, if you hear a strange hum, I've got a cat lying on my shoulder of all things. They seem to like that. This time it's Polka, and she is purring very loudly, and I'm going to let her. But the world is kind of, it's just there for some background entertainment. It's just there to kind of set the stage. It's largely harmless. Characters are characters range from the complete wallflowers to slightly odd and even endearing. But then the action happens, and you get very loud, very bombastic villains, and a main villain played by Alan Rickman in his breakout role, in fact, that is extreme in so many ways. Cold, calculating, well spoken, an insane flair for the dramatic, and he is played by Alan Rickman, which in itself is an extreme. And the hero, played by Bruce Willis, Mr. John McClane, has to slip into another extreme role of improvisational competence and your basic action hero stuff, while not looking like an action hero. So the world, the style, is basically casual. Everything is kind of casual. And even when things get intense, it has a very laid back attitude about it. With John McClane stopping when he sees the janitor's calendars of nudie pics, cracking annoyed joke to kind of vent his frustration all the time. And the villain is also extremely casual about many things. He just happens to be casual about horrible things. Um, the killings are very plain and straightforward. And whenever something is loud and dramatic, it's supposed to be noticed as being loud and dramatic. This is a very good example of a casual style done well. Of course, it is. It's one of the biggest action classics in the world of cinema. Why would it not be? But the style itself is also a very good example of casual storytelling. What is in focus is what is happening. The world and the world genre is a backdrop that's meant to carry the story forward. It's not meant to show it up. The style is there to support the story, not to outshine it. And that means that messages or themes or the like are usually not um, going to fit in very well. Because if there's some big thing you're supposed to notice about the world that is not about the story, it's likely going to take you out of that casual headspace. The casual headspace is meant to make the audience relax until something comes along for which they should not relax. There should not be tension about anything that is not about the story. There should not be a lot of confusion or a lot of emotional investment in anything that is not about the story. Nothing is supposed to be extreme except things that are very much meant to catch the attention of the audience. And that makes it perhaps the easiest kind of style to create stories for, because you can focus your attention on the story. And this is while the casual style often makes one think of a real world setting, and it has in many cases, at least in my opinion, been falsely proclaimed as realistic, which it is not. It simplifies. Um, but I lost my train of thought there. Been a stressful day. The casual style is meant to not outshine what is going on in the story. Oh yeah, although it's often depicted as realistic and is therefore often set in modern times, contemporary world genres like the present here or somewhere else, it can work pretty much anywhere. Even the most extreme settings can be extremely casual, even if that sometimes clashes a bit with the style. But in a funny way, that can often make it more effective. Something like cyberpunk can be perfectly casual. Um, Nothing about the great big struggles, just someone trying to do a job or handle a situation. Just things happening, and the world has some dark sides and some light sides to them. The world is the world, and overall things kind of work enough for the main characters to deal with whatever they have to deal with. It doesn't have to be all dark and brooding. It doesn't have to say a lot about the world. The world is just there. And if something is important to the story, then it gets drawn out and made more complicated, or I should say, made more deep. Complicated is maybe not always the casual thing to do. Fantasy can be very casual. The new Dungeons and Dragons movie is almost casual. It's pretty close to casual. It leans into the comedic, but for a great part of it, it's fairly casual. Even though magic exists and monsters and so on, but it's not like you're supposed to feel anything special about the magic. You're not supposed to feel awed by it. You're not supposed to laugh at the magic itself. You're not supposed to be terrified by it. You're not supposed to really think too much about the world that things take place in. It's all very casual. And even if you go to the extremes, you can actually make something like casual cosmic horrors. It will just be weird in its own special, precious way. And for those who want cosmic horror for cosmic horror's sake, it might feel like it's a bit flat, while for others it might feel a bit confusing because very clearly there are really big existential issues at play. But to the main characters, the world is just the world, and they move around in it and deal with problems as they come along. No great brooding about it, no going nuts, just day to day business. It's not the day that reality rips apart and the Blorks from Blorgatron go eating souls and anything. It's Tuesday. And there are some issues you need to deal with, and you try to deal with them maybe crack a joke about it, maybe have a stiff drink or a deep sigh or something. Um, but what's really in focus is the story. The, I should maybe say the plot to be more precise. Um, Casual is about focusing on the story and maybe a few added detail just to create some substance or explain the motivations and actions of main characters. But it's not about conveying some deep sense of anything about the world as it is. The world is just a background for which it's the stage on which the story can play itself out. And you should really all just relax and read the story. Not surprisingly, casual media tends to go down really well with the unwashed masses because you don't really need to invest much time or emotion into it. It's just there to entertain you and be pretty or sound interesting or something, whatever. It's casual. It's just there to create some background for the story. Focus on the story.